Each of the following movie characters are defined by their shocking secrets. But they are secrets which ultra-attentive viewers actually could have uncovered a good while before their jaw-dropping reveal. Granted, you probably would require supernatural powers of observation to notice these tiny details, and then link them to the subsequent big reveal, but everything you needed to figure it out was nevertheless there, just waiting to be discovered. And if you did pick up on any of these hints yourself, well, we'll go and take a bow, you very smart person. But for those who didn't, I am Gareth, you are watching What Culture, and here are 9 tiny movie details that gave away character secrets. Number 9, Jigsaw's gun is empty, confirming he is not dead. Saw. The original Saw's unforgettable final plot twist reveals that Jigsaw, the mastermind behind the film's various macabre traps and tests, was actually in the grotty bathroom with Adam and Dr. Gordon all along. As it turns out, Jigsaw was masquerading as the dead body in the middle of the bathroom, as a man who apparently shot himself due to the poison coursing through his body. And though Jigsaw stands up at the very end of the film to reveal his ruse, the movie actually gives the twist away far earlier if you're really paying attention. Midway through the film, the gun the man apparently used to shoot himself is examined, and we see that it's empty. Without even shell casings visible in any of the gun's 6 chambers, it's clear that the gun hasn't been fired in suicide, because who could have possibly cleaned it out afterwards? But of course, Adam and Gordon were in an impossible, heavily panicked situation, so you can't really criticize them for not putting 2 and 2 together here, can you? I mean, would you, given the circumstances? Number 8, Mr. Orange rats out Mr. Pink for not tipping because he's a cop. Reservoir Dogs. Quentin Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs is centered around the fallout of a botched diamond heist, with the eventual reveal that one of the thieves, Mr. Orange, is actually an undercover cop. But Mr. Orange's duplicitous nature is slightly revealed in the first minutes of the movie, when the gang heads to a diner for breakfast and Mr. Pink launches into a memorable spiel about his no-tipping policy. Mob boss Joe then asked the team who didn't tip, and without any hesitation whatsoever, Mr. Orange rats out Mr. Pink. Furthermore, when Joe asks why Mr. Pink didn't tip, Orange keeps chiming in with more information until Joe actually tells him to shut up. It's a subtle but brilliant way to let the audience know that Orange is a bit of a motormouth. And ultimately, well, a lot more than that. Number 7, the party guests all arrive in black cars, foreshadowing their use of black people as, vehicles. Get Out. Jordan Peele's Get Out is surely one of the most meticulously layered and expertly engineered horror films of the last decade. Jam-packed with terrifically satisfying symbolism, it's a movie that continues to reveal new surprises on 3rd, 4th, and even 5th viewings. Probably even 6th ones as well. Perhaps the most sneaky feat of foreshadowing in the entire movie occurs when guests start arriving for the Armitage's house party, and every single car that pulls up just so happens to be black. Given that the film's plot ultimately revolves around a family of wealthy old white people kidnapping young black people and taking control of their bodies, using them as vehicles even, it is hysterical that Peele lays this out in such blatant yet abstract terms so early on. And even if you think this is a bit of a reach on our part, Peele himself even confirmed that it was totally intentional in an interview. So there! And while we're talking about an incredible horror film that is Get Out, I want to know, what do you think is the best horror movie of the last decade? Let me know in the comment section down below. Number 6, Snape deflects McGonagles' spell into the Death Eaters because he's actually a hero. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. So, fans of the Harry Potter books were of course well aware of the fact that Severus Snape was a benevolent double agent several years before movie-only audiences found out in the franchise-capping Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. For those who stuck purely to the films though, like this guy, Snape being a hero all along was a supremely shocking and affecting moment. Just as it likely was in the books, naturally. Yet one that was also quite brilliantly foreshadowed earlier in the film. Just as the Battle of Hogwarts begins, Professor McGonagall fires a spell at Snape, who promptly deflects it into the Death Eaters stood behind him. While in the moment this simply seemed like a clumsy act of self-defense, within the eventual context of Snape's true nature, it's clear he took the opportunity to redirect McGonagall's attack against him into an assault on their actual mutual enemy, the Death Eaters. Great stuff. Thank you very very much for checking out this video today, you lovely person, and if you are enjoying what you're watching right now, then hit that subscribe button down below for more of this What Culture stuff in your day. Now back to the video. Number 5, Samy Jankis briefly morphs into Lenny, hinting at Lenny's big secret, Memento. Christopher Nolan's ingenious thriller Memento follows Leonard Shelby, an amnesiac who attempts to track down those responsible for murdering his wife. The film is framed by a series of black and white sequences where Shelby relays the story of an insurance case he handled for a man named Samy Jankis. Samy similarly suffered from amnesia, which ultimately caused him to accidentally administer an insulin overdose to his wife, killing her. The end of the movie implies that this story is actually Leonard's, who accidentally killed his own wife under similar circumstances. He then constructed an elaborate false revenge narrative in order to assuage his own guilt over the killing. It's a fantastically shocking reveal, albeit one that is also implied by a fleeting shot earlier in the film. During one of the black and white sequences where we see Samy in the hospital, he's replaced with Leonard for a few fractions of a second before the shot cuts away. It's easily missed even on repeat viewings, but provides an extremely compelling hint of the reveal to come. Number 4, Adelaide snaps her fingers off beat, suggesting she's a tethered us. Jordan Peele strikes again with his solid sophomore horror flick, Us, which revolves around a family facing off against their own insanely creepy doppelgangers. And just like Get Out, nothing in this film is done by accident. Every minor detail is carried out by design, to the extent that Peele literally spells out the big twist in the first few minutes of the movie. The end of Us reveals that Mother Adelaide was actually her own doppelganger Red all along, having been switched as a child, and the character we assume to be Red was actually the real Adelaide. Oops. Now this is brilliantly indicated by the opening of the movie, when as the family is driving to the coast for their vacation, Adelaide tries to snap her fingers to the song of I Got 5 on It, only for her snaps to be out of time with the music, hitting beats 1 and 3 instead of 2 and 4 as you'd expect. This immediately makes something seem a bit off about her, to the extent that some even predicted the twist from the trailer alone. Given that Adelaide was a dancer as a youngster, there'd surely be no reason for her to fail to hold the correct beat, right? Take a bow, Mr. Peele. Number 3, Truman's best friend Marlon keeps restocking the vending machine with the same candy bars, because he's an actor. The Truman Show. The Truman Show revolves around Truman Burbank, a man unaware that his entire life unfolds within the controlled confines of a reality show. As the movie's opening title sequence makes clear, every single person in Truman's world is a paid actor. Even his best friend Marlon, who manages to convince Truman for a good while that his suspicions are incorrect. And while we as the audience know that Marlon, or rather Louis Coltrane, as is his real name, is an actor from the first few minutes of the movie, there's a brilliant hint to Truman in the first act of the film that Marlon isn't who he says he is. When Truman visits him at the convenience store where he works, Marlon is stocking a vending machine with candy bars. Yet because he wasn't expecting Truman to show up, he doesn't have enough candy bars to keep stocking the machine for the entirety of the quote-unquote scene. And so whenever Truman turns away from him for a moment, Marlon removes a couple of the bars and puts them back into the machine, giving only the most superficial impression that he's still working. Of course, had Truman been paying much attention at all, he would have noticed the deception and realized that Marlon was in on it too. Number 2, the narrator can't hear his boss because he hit himself in the ear the night before, Fight Club. David Fincher's Fight Club boasts one of the most stunningly executed plot twists in cinema history. That our unnamed protagonist, the narrator, and Tyler Durden are in fact the same person, the latter being an idealized second personality that exists within the narrator's mind. There are a number of sly clues throughout the film which ultimately make repeat viewings a tremendously rewarding joy, and one especially sneaky one that you might not yet know about. We all remember the iconic scene where Tyler asks the narrator to hit him as hard as he can, leading to Tyler hilariously being hit in the ear. In the very next scene, set the next morning, we see the narrator at work, unable to hear what his boss says to him for a beat, as he tells the audience after fighting everything else in your life got the volume turned going down. With our knowledge that the narrator actually hit himself in the ear the night before though, it makes perfect sense that his hearing would be impaired the next day, especially as the afflicted ear, his left one, is facing his boss when he starts speaking to him. If that's not some galaxy brain god tier foreshadowing, then I don't know what is. And number 1, Sam's shirt hints at him being a clone, Moon. The terrific Sam Rockwell starring sci-fi drama Moon follows Sam Bell, a man who begins to mentally and physically unravel as he reaches the end of a 3-year mining stint on the far side of the moon. It's eventually revealed that Sam is in fact one of hundreds of identical clones of the original Sam Bell, and his frayed sanity is a result of each clone's inbuilt 3-year lifespan. Basically, Lunar Industries awakens a new clone when the previous one is retired, that is, incinerated, as is cleverly foreshadowed in the film's opening title sequence, where Sam Prime is wearing a shirt reading "Wake me when it's quitting time." The relevance this statement has to Sam's true nature speaks for itself, really, doesn't it? Even if at this point in the movie it seems like nothing more than a goofy throwaway slogan. Little did we know.